Up.
Hello, hello. This is Ignacy Trivicek from Portal Games.
And Corey Thompson from a whole bunch of stuff.
And this is the Podfather of Gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 374, and we're recording this on June 19th, 2025. Board Games Insider, powered by Board Game Geek. Hey guys, how's it going? Good to see
Hey.
everybody's pretty faces.
Oh, pretty. Yeah,
Yeah.
exhausted.
I'm here in Columbus, Ohio at Origins, barely awake. Though I have no reason not to have gotten up early enough, but the North Market over here doesn't open until 9 o'clock, so I had to wait to get my coffee. Very, very sad.
At the torture.
It's torturous. Ignacy, tell us what's happening over at Portal Games.
Over at Portal Games, I've been at the Asmodee Nordic Retailer Day. It was 2 weeks ago in Copenhagen, Denmark. Great show. We don't have much time to discuss it today, but maybe at some point we should, maybe next year, because it's, mm, I would say, the most professional, or at least one of the most professional run B2B shows. Retailers, press, media from Nordic countries, a meeting with the publishers. Every publisher has their booth, presenting new releases. Super smooth, super professional event. I had a blast. We, as a Portal Games, we invited designer of Bohemians to be there with us because luckily he lives in Copenhagen. So it was super easy for us to bring him in. He took a day off from his regular job and he was highlighting and presenting Bohemians to retailers. Super fun and momentary silly because many retailers who came to our booth, he was interacting with them. Hey, I know your shop. I was buying games at your shop, and immediately, starting the discussion and talking about the stores
Awesome.
and presenting Bohemians. Many of people who approached our booth already played Bohemians, which was a big shock for me. I didn't realize that
Cool.
Jasper, the designer of the game, for the past 2 years was very active at the local conventions, going with the prototype and playing with people and presenting the game. So actually, he was not doing a pitch what Bohemians is about. He was just presenting, this is the final result. You played it a year ago as a prototype, which
I
was,
love
for me,
it.
it was a shock. It was beautifully an awesome moment. So I came back to Poland super happy, and I know that I need to print more copies for Denmark because this game is already renowned over there, even though it's not yet released. So it was a great time. Because of course our listeners know that I'm not a big fan of flying, so I spend 30 hours in a car. This is so stupid. It was terrible uh,
As
going to
long as you
Denmark
say
by
it,
car.
yes, it's kind of stupid.
And so next year I think I will just take a pills and go by plane.
Oh my
So that was what that was happening 2 weeks ago. Bohemians will have a strong start in Denmark. I'm very, very happy. And what's interesting for our fans in America and in Europe right now, what's happening is the finally our first pre-orders for this year, our Gen Con release, Age of Galaxy. I mentioned this game a few times already in the podcast. It is a new edition of the game previously released by Korean publisher or Taiwanian, sorry, Taiwan publisher. Age of Galaxy, you can go to portalgamesus.com, check the offer. We have a special promo, we have a special price. This is our pre-release Gen Con, and then it will be released in August. In America, it's a card game. You are building your civilization, you are doing your tech tree, you are colonizing planets, all the jazz that you guys know about sci-fi games. I played this game a couple of years ago. I contacted designers, publishers, signed the contract for the English rights. So Portal Games has English rights for this game. Like we haven't developed the game in-house, but we secured the rights. So very proud to bring this game to America. So this was happening. And one more thing, if I may, one short story, but it was heartwarming. This is the word in
God.
English. I think
Hmm.
it's
Yep,
it's
yep.
something like that. I was at the booth. B2B environment, the retailers coming, most of them talking to Jasper because they know him, not me. I was like incognito almost. And one retailer approaches me and he said that he thanks for the podcast, that he listens to our podcast, that he appreciates what we do for years for the industry, explaining how it all works. And he says, and because I respect that and I appreciate your work, in my store in Sweden, he was from Sweden, in my store in Sweden, always, every time, every week, every day, every month, I have all your games in stock because I appreciate
Wow.
you and I respect the.
Wow.
And that was so shocking and so positive that he appreciates our work here for years, almost 10 years. We are recording the podcast. And he said, and because I respect that, Portal Games is always on my shelves. And I was in a positive shock. So greetings to him, Dennis, if you're listening. I guess you are listening. Thank you. It was super positive highlight of the show. I thank you, and mm, that's all. I don't know
That's
even what to say. It was
yeah.
so nice.
That is fantastic. I've had
That's
some
awesome.
interesting little like things with people here too. And the show really hasn't even started. Today is like the first exhibit hall opens today. There's been gaming, of course, but yeah, those kind of like moments are just wonderful. And one quick thing, just to give everybody out in the audience a perspective. Ignacio's talking about Asmodee Nordic. That's the equivalent of that's a distributor show for the Nordic countries. Asmodee is the biggest distributor out there, and that is their show. And obviously, professionally run. Play to Z was there, right? Zev was there, and Ignacy and Zev had a little bit of a
Was
nice little meeting that they haven't seen each other in a while, which was really nice. Corey,
yeah. This
Yeah.
is the event like a Gamma Trade Show, something like that.
yeah.
Yeah. So I just came up from LA, so not quite a 30-hour drive, but it was about an 8-hour drive.
Oh boy,
And yeah, I was down in LA doing all sorts of things with the studio. It was really fantastic. I was involved in a table read of a script, which I hadn't done before, and it was really, really fun. Basically, we had the screenwriter, the director, and all the actors sitting around the table with the scripts, and we're just reading it out in character. And I had a fantastic time with it. I'd like to do that again. At the studio, we met up with actor Bob Morley, who's the lead from the TV show The 100. And turns out he's a gamer. So we were talking
nice.
about board games. His favorite games were Dominion and Wingspan, and we are talking about some history and some games out there. Had a really good time with that. And then I went to LFG Con, which there was a lot of debate about what LFG uh, stood for. I think the polite version was Looking for Games Con, which is a brand new convention in the LA area that is was started by local game stores. And one of the gaming stores that started it was Game and Grounds, which is 2 blocks away from my studio. So it was a really great little convention for a first time convention. It was fantastic. Saw a lot of friends in the LA area that I haven't seen in a while. Peter Vaughn, the owner of Cardboard Alchemy, Grant Lyon, John Clare, designer of Space Base and Ready Set Bet, Ruel Gaviola, Amanda Panda, Ross Thompson, who runs Comic Con Board Gaming. Jackie Fox was there from the Runaways, designer of Rock Hard 1977. Dan Shu, really a fantastic group. Had a really good time with that. Uh, and just came up yesterday. One other interesting thing, I went over to John Clare's house for some game playing and dinner, and there was a SpaceX launch. So we got a phone call that there was a rocket launch in California. We ran outside, and sure enough, we could see the rocket trail going up over John Clare's house. It was really pretty amazing. Next up, at the end of June, I'm going to be at RageCon in Reno, Nevada. So if you're there, find me, seek me out. It'll be a really fun convention. It's one of my favorites. Really nice, open gaming, a lot of space. It doesn't feel overcrowded. Very significant designer developer attendance. Really good prototyping. And then it's just a matter of weeks until Gen Con at the beginning of August. So the big one of the season. I will be at Gen Con. I will be doing my best to represent, and looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing everybody there.
Very, very cool. And excuse me, with my morning voice still
I was
enacted.
dealing with that too.
But you have an excuse. It's 6:30 a.m. by you. It's 9:30 a.m. over here. I should be wide awake, and I'm not. Over here in Columbus, Ohio, at Origins, convention has barely started, as I mentioned. Enjoying those lovely moments. So all my best stories start as. So I'm sitting at a bar. So I was sitting at so I'm at a table right next to the bar at the big bar on two at the Hyatt. That's where a lot of industry people used to go. Not as much anymore. It's interesting. So I just happened to be there, and I went by, and we had a bunch of people that were showing up and hanging out, and literally I just hear Bonacor. Turn around, random person, nobody I know, no idea, sitting with his wife, and he goes, "Love everything you do. Thank you so much." So I walk over, shake his hand. He goes, and he just literally was you don't know me from anything, but I followed what you've done, and just told my wife that you're a gaming celebrity. And I'm like, I looked at his wife and said, I'm a big fish in a very small pond. So not a celebrity to anybody else except for your husband right here. So it was just those lovely moments that, like, kind of Ignacy
That's
is
funny.
mentioning too, that we just love that kind of stuff. So if you do see me, of course, come up and say hello. Walk the exhibit hall during setup yesterday, every 20 feet, waylaid by another friend in there, which was great to see everybody, and continuing to see people for lunches and dinners, trying to get the pulse of how the industry is going. And I'll
Do you miss
report.
setting up the booth?
I do not. But the Play to Z booth is a really small setup, so it's easy to do. Zev takes care of it, and he's got a couple of helpers there. Just great seeing old friends here. I get home from this. I leave a day early. I leave on Sunday. I get home. I spend one day at home to pack, and I'm off to Europe. And I'm going to be going to Scotland first. Spend a few days there. Go over to London, Southampton to take a cruise up to Norway. Four ports there, as I've been mentioning: Ålesund, Molde, Olden, and Haugesund. If you happen to be in any of those places on July 1, 2, 3, and 4, let me know. And then I end up, when I get back, in Dublin, Ireland. It's going to be one of those another amazing trips. And besides the gamers on BGG at sea, which is what the cruise is, which I'll know some of those and make new friends, with a couple of couples who are just really close, the Phelpses and the Chapmans. You guys may or may not know some of them. I know Corey knows them, and just having a great time there for the entire, like, 2.5 weeks. In the meantime, let's get to the event deck. I hear some background noise. It's interesting. Anyway, so what do we have here? We got some news out of Embracer. They posted to all the people on their press release um, mailing list about a summary of the changes, the management shifts, as they prepare to finally split into three companies. Remember that Embracer spun off Asmodee earlier this year, around April 1st. They are soon to spin off Coffee Stain Group, they're calling
Yep.
it. Those are electronic developers. And then they're
And the
gonna
comic books.
and the comic
Dark
books are in Coffee Stain.
Dark Horse Comics is in Coffee
Yeah,
Stain.
I was trying to remember where they would go. Thank you for reminding me there. And Embracer, at that moment when that split happens, they're changing their name to Fellowship Entertainment, which is going to contain Middle Earth Enterprises, but also a number of IPs that they own to license many different IPs besides the Tolkien IPs. And there's going to be some digital development in that space too, which is interesting. And the reason I know that last part is because I also got their annual report literally just now. And one of the reasons why I was not ready and prepared as I usually am for this is that I was trying to read their annual report. I'll have more information when I digest it a little bit more, as it explains the three different operating units. But the big changes that are happening in the management is that Lars Wingsford's he's not going to be the CEO anymore. He's not going to become the executive chairman of the board of the Embracer Group, and his non-management team role. He's going to be responsible for capital allocation, M&A, and strategy. So while he's stepping down from this big role, he's actually moving into like this strategy role, which is, something that is very important when you have that, kind of an organization with all these moving parts. I'm not going to go through every person here because we don't know these names, but let's just say that with all of these changes in the companies that are going to be operating, they've had to take all the people in Embracer basically and assign them these roles in all the other companies. The final thing here is Coffee Stain Group will spin off no later than the end of 2025, and then Embracer rebrands as Fellowship Entertainment at that same time. All
So
very interesting.
parent company Embracer is becoming the third arm there. Parent company Embracer is taking on Middle Earth Enterprises.
That's the remaining portion. That is correct.
All right. Yeah, it's definitely a week for executives moving around, people moving around companies. That seems to be the theme of a lot of our news this week.
Take the next one.
So the next one is Michael Webb, the vice president of sales at Paizo, has left and has joined WizKids, become general manager of WizKids. This came actually from a Facebook group. After 25 years in business and distribution and the last four with Paizo, I just joined the team at WizKids as general manager for the company. So congratulations to Michael Webb. Still staying in a board game space, but WizKids, is switching around people a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's a very exciting one. Then we've got more people moving around.
This one is very, very big and very, very interesting.
Exactly. So this came from a large number of sources, including the LA Times.
Yep.
But two of the executives from Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons group have left Dungeons and Dragons and have joined Darrington Press, which is the company formed and centered around Critical Role. So from the Darrington press release, exciting news. Our Darrington Press team has grown, adding Chris Perkins as our creative director and Jeremy Crawford as game director. So it says, we're thrilled to welcome both Chris and Jeremy's expertise in game design and storytelling honed through decades of experience working together on tabletop games such as Dungeons and Dragons and Star Wars role-playing Warhammer Fantasy and Blue Rose. We're enormous fans of their work and honored to welcome them into the team. So this is a really big deal. These are two of the foundational people at Dungeons and Dragons. They've been at WotC for a long time and have done some pretty significant things, and now they are moving to Critical Role, to Darrington Press. It's positioning Critical Role as a more significant player in the role-playing space.
Yeah, I thought this was very significant, and I think it goes with another article that actually is somewhere a little later, but I'll mention it now, that Hasbro has continuing layoffs. They're laying off another 3% of their workforce, and this is added to the almost 30% that they laid off. I believe it was at the beginning of this year. So WotC, of course, being owned by Hasbro, they are significantly restructuring to bring costs down. Their biggest portion of profit is from Wizards of the Coast and digital. Why? Where those people are coming from in these new 3%, I don't know, but certainly some of WotC's best people are now scheduled to be leaving, which is very interesting.
Yeah, because last year after Gen Con, you guys remember there was a release of Dungeons and Dragons special edition for the anniversary.
Yep.
And soon after, so I think it was September, when we reported some people leaving. There were people who prepared this new edition, and they were leaving WotC, of course, I'm not a big in Dungeons and Dragons, so I don't remember these names. Sorry to my listeners. But we reported a couple of people who were integral for the preparing this work on this new
Yep.
edition, left the company, and here a few months later we have like a conclusion, like the big people from the
Yeah.
from Dungeons and Dragons. So this is like a trend that is happening over the many months that WotC is losing the best people who were preparing Dungeons and Dragons.
I
Some
should say that these two execs had the same game titles back at D&D that they're now holding at Darrington Press. They were in game design, so that they really were foundational and had been very significant people in the creation of Dungeons and Dragons for decades.
Someone gave me a football analogy
Ah,
for these two people and said,
this turned into a huge
"Did
argument in exactly the wrong forum.
you know you were in that forum,
Yes,
right?" And they
I
said
was.
these two guys moving is like Brady and Gronk from the going to the Buccaneers when that happened when Tom Brady the GOAT, the greatest of all time quarterback, and his right hand man tight end went over. He said this is like that big for role playing. So I thought that was a
And
very interesting
of
thing.
course, if you're going to convince a group of Dungeons and Dragons players how important it is, probably the best thing you could do is an American football analogy.
Yeah, yeah. Because they,
Nobody got it.
I got it, you got it. Continuing on changes in management, this one, in some ways, is the most significant for us, for board
Yes.
gaming, right? And this is that David Preti, who is the former COO, fairly recently, resigned and left CMON, is now being hired by Asmodee. On the surface, okay, that's good. A senior guy is going to
Yeah,
go over that thing, but
one of the top people at Cool Mini. This is interesting.
but this, by the way, was on a number of sources, including Board Game Wire, of friends over there. The most important part of this whole thing, which is very, very difficult to digest, he will be the head of crowdfunding strategy and miniatures line. Now, please tell me
For
anybody
Asmodee, for
for
Asmodee.
Asmodee. So please tell me anybody here or listening that says that this is, oh, absolutely a great thought that Asmodee is going to now be into crowdfunding. Hashtag not. It's a very scary thought. While they could help, the way that the big ship always, the rising tide floats all boats kind of thing. I having them now start to crowdfunding just sounds like a not good idea for like everybody else who does crowdfunding.
And Asmodee has not really entered crowdfunding at all.
Yeah.
Board Game Wire did list that there was one project Asmodee was tangentially associated with, and that was the Grand Austria Hotel Let's Waltz expansion, which was crowdfunded from Lookout Games, which is a sub company of Asmodee. But
Yeah.
that's, I mean,
Tiny.
you can put that aside and say Asmodee has not really entered crowdfunding. So now they've hired arguably the person who created board game crowdfunding model,
The number
the
one person
most
maybe in the
the
world who knows
yeah, the number
crowdfunding.
one crowdfunder. They've hired him and given him a title of you are now running crowdfunding for Asmodee.
I'm Ignacy, I need a comment. We need you to talk about this.
David is my very close industry friend. We know each other for over a decade.
Oh, okay.
I wish him the best. I congratulate him. And my statement on Asmodee growing, eating everyone else, and going to every single section of my industry is well known. Support indie publishers. Go to portagamesus.com. Pre-order Age of Galaxy. We don't need to support Asmodee crowdfunding. But of course, as you said, maybe even David, Zombicide, Simon. These are three things that established the whole modern board gaming crowdfunding
Yep.
scene. Like he was
Yep.
the guy who was coming up with stretch goals. He was the guy who was coming up with all these new ideas that he changed the industry. Like we can say that very, very clearly. He knows everything about the crowdfunding. And so we don't have a official press release from Asmodee that they are going to the crowdfunding, but they leaked by giving us publicly his position. So
Yeah.
yes, Asmodee is coming to the crowdfunding. I was very happy when they were buying all the retailers and distributors. I was very happy when they were buying all the big IPs, and I'm now very happy that they are going to the crowdfunding. Yes, it is more and more difficult for indie publishers to fight for
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
hearts, dear gamers.
Well, this
I,
is an interesting question. Is Asmodee actually getting into crowdfunding, or is Asmodee prepping to support Zombicide, which they just purchased?
well,
Because
they're not
Zombicide
mutually
pretty much,
exclusive.
Sony's
they're not, but Zombicide exists pretty much in the crowdfunding space.
Sure.
So it's a good move if they're purchasing Zombicide and continuing with Zombicide that they continue it in crowdfunding. But is there going to be more? There has to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they would not give him a position of chief of crowdfunding to run one game. Like, let's face it.
Unless they thought it's a very, very major game.
I agree with
I'm a
Ignacy. There's
Polish,
no,
I
yeah.
am Polish publisher. I am Polish publisher of Zombicide for almost 10 years. After Asmodee bought the rights, no comments. I'm very happy that they have now these rights.
So moving into some Gamma news. So Gamma, we have reported, was doing a fly-in to Washington, D.C. to help lobby for no tariffs, on the game industry, because it doesn't make sense because we cannot produce games in America. We just can't do it. We've talked about
Right.
this. And a number of people showed up, quite a bit. I really did want to go. A number of very close friends of mine were there. And Corey, I saw that you posted a debrief that was from
Well, yeah, Elizabeth
Elizabeth.
Hargrave put up a debrief, and it's a Google Doc. It's a little difficult to say where it is on air, but if you do a little bit of searching, a little bit, there's a lot of Facebook links to Elizabeth's debrief on the June 11th, 12th visit to Capitol Hill. Elizabeth, of course, is local to the area and has a history working in politics in DC, knows this realm very, very well. Um, and they met with a large number of people, both in passing and in scheduled meetings, and have really, I think, done a very, very good job in showing that the board game industry is suffering greatly from tariffs. You said that there was a large number of board game representatives there. There's a brief list I can put up. It's Robert Geislinger from Arcane Wonders, Dustin Wessel from Arcane Wonders, Price Johnson from Cephalofair, Molly Zeff from Flying Leap, Matt Fantastic from Forever Stoked, Kevin Bertram from Fort Circle, Boyd Stevenson from Game Castle, Jason Matthews from JOE Design, Kristen Looney from Looney Labs, Jordan McLaughlin from Rookie Mage, Kurt Covert from Smirk and Dagger, Monica Russo from Tabletop Enterprises, Michael Piasek from The Game Steward, and of course the Gamma representatives, Nicole Brady, who's Gamma president, and John Stacy, who's Gamma executive director, all present and telling everybody what's going on, what impact it has, and very specifically how it's pretty much destroying the Christmas
Yeah.
season for the board game industry.
Yeah, and existentially, potentially destroying the entire American, gaming market. They were asking for in summary, they were asking, in general, save Christmas by eliminating tariffs on toys and games. Please support small businesses, because most companies are 10 employees or less that this is affecting, and vote for these bills that are being brought up in the Senate and in the House. That was where they were trying to do. Now, I got somebody, I won't say who it is because I don't know that they want to be mentioned, who said that there was a lot of banging their heads against a wall, which is sort of the way politics works, sadly. That, they're meeting with the lowest of the lowest of the lowest staff members. Like somebody told me that like the oldest person I think that they met with was like 18 years old, or at least like that's what they looked like, and they were not getting very well. But other people are saying they actually got to, the people who are actually cared about these bills, they actually got to people a little more senior than that. The people who didn't care about these bills, they got to talk to 18-year-olds. So it was not it was a mixed bag, but at least they tried to do something. I think it's a great idea that that happened.
I really recommend finding Elizabeth's rebuttal paper because one of the more important parts, it does say some strategies that we can do as fans of the industry. What can the average person do to try to get more attention towards this? And it's the things
Mhm.
you've heard before, but very specifics on how to do it.
Right.
Look up who your representative at Congress is. Write a letter to your member of Congress. Call and ask to speak with staff members who handle trade policy and small business. Try to visit with your member of Congress when they're nearby. Very specific, actionable things that can be done by us.
Right. Let's move through the next three really quickly so we finish all the news for the week. Of course, there's always going to be some interesting diamond bankruptcy news, and the title for my CV2 is that April was a big month for
Man,
fees.
I think I owe Ignacy $20 now. He said there would be a diamond story every single week. And
There might be one until who knows? It's crazy. So during April alone, um, the fees and expenses billed by the various advisors totaled $2.3 million plus, up from around 1.9 million for March. And various lawyers, of course, and consulting groups are all billing, making the entire value of the company that's been broken up and acquired much less. So the news will continue.
the
Um,
professional fees through the end of April total now to 6.8 million.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. So we also have Frosted Games, does European distribution with Asmodee, also from our friends on Board Game Wire. Frosted Games, the German language publisher of titles including Too Many Bones and Endeavor Deep Sea, has signed a deal with industry heavyweight Asmodee to expand its distribution across Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. The deal comes just over a year after Frosted revealed that it had ended its years-long distribution deal with Germany's Pegasus Spiel, is saying that at the time, that as a niche publisher of small print runs, the whole route was no longer financially viable without either drastically increasing our prices of our games or making massive cuts somewhere in the distribution chain. So Frosted Games, very small company, good company. They make some very high quality stuff. We Stronghold. We talked about working. We never actually did a game with them, but they're really great, interesting company. They're now going with Asmodee as their distributor for Europe. And finally, Fantasy Flight Games, a division of Asmodee, of course, is increasing prices by about 15% on their
I
LCGs
think we're
and
going to
board games.
continue to see big players announcing increases in prices because of everything that's been going on. It's just a necessary means for survival. And Fantasy Flight is such a huge part of the industry. This is another large brick that's fallen. This is another one saying that it's time for increase in prices.
These prices will go into effect on July 15th of 2025, of course, and the effective date for the price increases will occur a week after. It happens to occur a week after the July 8th deadline on the brokered deal of tariffs that the United States is currently working on with various countries. So, I mean, in effect, if you're looking to get a Fantasy Flight game, you were thinking about getting it, buying it sooner rather than later is probably in your best interests before the retail prices end up going up. And with that, strategy and tactics. All right, what do we have here? The first thing we have is from Joey Larson. He's at Joeyman3. Why are board game publishers so hyped about brick and mortar? It seems to me that outside of Christmas, which is admittedly huge, and Magic slash Pokemon, most board games are purchased online. What do you think? Is this a proven way for new entrants into the hobby or something? I mean, I guess he's just saying, why do we care about brick and mortar stores so much? Corey, Ignacy, why do we care about them?
I I'm not sure that most of sales are happening online. There's a significant number of sales happening online, but brick and mortar still whole is really important for sales of board games. I think more important brick and mortar stores are centers for community. So most gamers have their favorite store. They'll go to their store. They'll spend 8 hours at their store. They'll play games and talk about what games are happening, not happening, exciting, not exciting. So supporting brick and mortar stores is an access point to the community. So I think it still holds a really important space for most publishers, especially small publishers that might not have exposure otherwise.
I think you said the one word that sums it up, community, because brick and mortar establishes game community. And sure, quite a few of them make most of their money in the Magic, the Gathering space. Um, they still create community of gamers, and that brings more gamers in. When's the last time that Amazon brought a new gamer into the world? No, no. People like you or me might go buy on Amazon. You walk around into a game store and you find friends and people that you want to hang out with in game. That's a community. So that's why we care about it. Not to mention supporting local is always great. Big Nasi, I'm sure you agree, right?
I am great.
I said I assume you agree, right? You are great.
Not entirely,
Ah,
There we go.
I I definitely don't want the owners of brick and mortar stores do not like Ignacy. So maybe next question, please.
next question.
No, so be serious. Just
Okay,
we discuss
okay.
it very seriously. I do believe, of course, that the brick and mortar stores community is super important, obviously, but I think that still there is this belief that you just showed that people are discovering board games at brick and mortar stores because this is how we were thinking about it in 80s, 90s, or 2000s. Nobody these days, or just 1%, discovers gaming by going to the randomly on the streets and entering random store. Like you go to the Google or you go to the ChatGPT, and this is how modern society and young people discover new things. So brick and mortar stores are super important, obviously, but I don't believe that our industry is growing because people are discovering these stores in random spaces on the city map and learning board games. They are learning online because this is where we are living right now. In Poland, seriously, every single game store has a website and sells much more online than in real life, like in a brick and mortar. Of course, in America, situation is different. I was learning about this when I was starting Protagonist USA. Euro's game stores are much bigger than European because of the space. So your stores in America have much bigger community. You have much bigger tournaments, Magic the Gathering, or miniature games. Like here in Europe, we don't have a so big game stores. We don't have so much space to run. So, in terms of the community in America, it is more important for game stores. In Europe, in Poland especially, like these game stores are super small. If you can run a tournament for 5 people, 6 people, 8 people, this is you're happy. So yeah, I think online stores are as much important as brick and mortar. They bring different value. Uh, both are important. And I don't want to comment more because I don't want
Okay.
to be in trouble.
Patrick Zock, who is at PD Zock, he says, I am sure some games require lots of support from the publisher, while other games do not require much, if any, support. When does dropping support for a game kill or drastically drop its popularity and demand for a game? What factors into a decision for a publisher to end support for a game? Does the risk of the game dying through lack of support influence the decision to drop support? Is it possible that a game can be supported indefinitely? Or is there always a time when support has to cease? Is a support a requirement for a game factor in publishing the game in the first place? Support of games. I don't know. This is a big question. And it really kind of depends on how we're defining that. I mean, certain games, right? I mean, like you got a CCG, LCG, you don't produce new cards, game
That
dies out.
requires intense support.
Intense support for that. Many games, most games that we do, most board games we do, we produce a game and we sell through our print run. If we're lucky, we print it again and sell that print run. If we're truly lucky, we continue to do this over time, and then we'll make expansions for it and things like that, right? So that's the general cycle. Um, the evergreen titles, the ones that go on, are the ones that end up getting more support because there's more people playing them, and we want to keep people interested in the games. The one and dones, there are plenty of those. They're still good games. They just didn't have the big grassroots movement to continue a line like that, right? All of us in publishing have lines of games that we try to support. Not Play to Z yet, of course, because we're small. But Ignacio's got multiple lines like Nourishing a Hex and Ignacio, name your lines of games. You got all these lines that you're supporting over time because they continue to sell. Do you have any feel for when something is supported more than others, or better, when do you drop support for a game?
It is exactly you explained it super clearly. Like this is a game of the numbers. If you have a big print run, if you have a restock, if you have a reprint, that means there is enough fan base to create expansion, and because you want people to talk about the game. And at some point, if they're worn out about the game, if they don't want more, you will stop doing expansion. That's why for this 10 years of this podcast, we are discussing that it is insane that I'm doing Narushima Hex expansions. This is like a record of Guinness to do like 20 expansions for the game because there are people still playing this game. But for many games, like for instance for Detective, at some point I was doing new cases, new standalone games for Detective. At some point, people get not more interested, and we stopped doing that. So everything, your invoices will tell you exactly your strategy. Like
Yeah,
your
Yeah.
development team is working with your invoice team, and they tell you we need more content for this game because it sells very well, or you can cool off because the sales are going down and down and down. So there's no big
right,
philosophy. It's just a game of numbers.
right.
It-
Last
with
question.
Patrick's with Patrick's question, the interesting thing there is I think we've got it a little backwards. It's the phrase is tail wagging the dog. So Patrick is asking, does killing support kill the game? In reality, nobody does that. In reality, the support goes away because the game is already dead.
Good way
I
of
have
putting
I
it.
have interesting I have interesting case. I have interesting case with Robinson Crusoe. Everybody knows the game. So due to the embarrassing problems during the campaign that my company created, and there was a lot of disappointment of the fans, we as a company decided to not piss off fans, and we stopped communicating about Robinson Crusoe on the forums because people were very angry, well deserved by me. Once again, I'm very sorry and apologize for that. So for the 2 years, there was not much happening around Robinson Crusoe in social media at conventions. Like we were not showing this game to the public because they were very angry because of the delay of the campaign. And you see that the game is now less popular because people forgot about it because new people were coming to the industry and were not discovering the game. So now we are working hard to bring Robinson Crusoe once again to attention of the people. But these 2 years of not supporting the game, these 2 years of not talking about the game, not bringing some mini expansions or promo packs or whatever, made some damage to the game. So yes, no publisher wants to stop supporting the game if the game sells.
We'll take the next one because it's related directly to this other question. Stefano De Silvio from Austria at Alas Demigod. Hi guys, do you think that interest in expansions is diminishing? In the past, games used to get multiple expansions, where now it seems to me that very few games get more than one if you don't count huge sellers. So, do you think that's, first of all, is his premise true? Are less expansions being produced these days? I
I
would
think
I
say.
for
I do not.
Anybody?
For
Go
my
for
perspective, we have smaller print runs. Of course, we have crazy wingspans and crazy Asmodee new ticket to ride, etc., etc. But the indie publishers have a smaller print runs these days. And if you have smaller print run, you have less chances to have expansion. And even if you do expansion, the second expansion is not likely to happen. So for us, for Portal Games, if you look at the history of the company, 2013, we do Tezos and the Legacy. Nobody remembers these games. And a year later, we had expansion. 2014, we had Imperial Settlers, and a year later, we had expansion. 2015, we had Tides of Time, and a year later, we had expansion. It was mandatory. We were doing a game, it was successful, big print run, and we follow up with expansion. These days, it's not mandatory. This is not a rule.
Yeah.
For some
Hmm.
games that are super successful for us, we do expansion, but to have a game that has a couple expansions, it haven't happened for my company for a few years now.
I think one of the important things that's happening with expansions is the timing has compressed. So most people will, and small publishers and especially Kickstarters will design a game, but at the same time they'll design the expansion. So you'll see the game come out and immediately one expansion. But you don't know how the game sells until that first expansion has come out. You don't know how the base game did. So you get a delay. It's now becoming too much time to put out a game, see how it does, then decide on an expansion. There's just too much time goes by.
Yeah.
So most people will plan the expansion
Yeah.
initially and then find out after that whether it was a good idea or not.
Yeah. And with all this entire discussion, very many publishers have retrenched, done less new games, and specifically targeted doing their making their lines of games bigger and deeper so that because they know those sell. You know, pick any huge evergreen. Wingspan, right? They're doing more and more Wingspans in products for Wingspan because it sells, right? So that to me is making the what the person just asked not actually true. People are focusing to do expansions in lines that really are good, and if they do bring out a new game, maybe there'll be that quick expansion just because they throw something else out there with it. But in general, focusing on lines of games
Yeah.
are much more important right
It's the
now.
consumer paradox that everybody wants a new thing, but
Hmm.
in reality, they want something they're very comfortable with and very nostalgic with,
Yeah,
but a new one.
exactly. All right, we're really going long today. Let's get over to playtesting. Corey, thank you again for all your hard work and coming up with these dumb questions. Can you please tell us about last week's question? And maybe some people answered it in very interesting ways.
So it is truth time. We all know you do this. It's time to admit to it. How superstitious are you about your dice? Do you have favorite dice? Do you have bad dice that you never use? And then the one that I was really curious about is have you ever used your bad, ill-behaving dice when you were trying to fail a roll?
So, all kinds of interesting things. Usually people say, nah, I'm not superstitious, but then they sound like they are in the descriptions,
I think
right?
the majority of it is people saying, no, I'm not superstitious at all, but I have really bad dice that I never use because they roll terrible, and I put them over here.
Evan Halbert, he says, I'm not superstitious about dice. They're all bad dice for me, as I have uncanny unluck. The trick is finding a way to win anyway, so I very much appreciate luck mitigation. Joey Larson, my wife definitely believes that if a dice roll is a one once, it's likely to do so again. The first roll of the game helps her know which dice to avoid for the rest of the game. That is
I loved
superstitious.
Sarah Simpson has three rules for dice. Rule one, talk nice to the dice. Let them know what results you really want. Rule two, don't let anyone else use the dice, especially the DM. Rule number three, if a die rolls a natural 20, give it a break before making it work so hard again. I thought this was awesome because I found myself doing this.
Kevin Martin, almost the same kind of thing. I'm not superstitious, but these actions, based on science, definitely work. One, blow on the dice to make them lucky. Two, tell the dice what you need. Otherwise, how will they know? Three, rub the dice vigorously between both hands to get them hot.
Oh, that's
Four,
important. Yeah.
four, encourage the dice by shouting boom or bam as you release them to the table. Treat your dice well. They will reward you. Fact.
I want to know, Ignace, I want to know Ignacio's answer to this. He's the big role play. He's a big dice roller.
Yeah,
I want to
Ignacy,
know.
you weren't here when we gave our answers. What is your answer to this question?
Of course, I love my rituals. Of course, I do all the tricks that are important to roll right. And I'm not talking about the cheating, but I'm talking about some rituals. So yes, I'm all in. And to be honest, of course, I don't believe it will work, but I need to do these rituals. So, for instance, when I play miniature games, there's a lot of rolls. So we are sitting at the table, rolling these d6s, hoping for the six. But then when there's this very important moment when my unit or my cannon needs to hit, I'm standing, I'm doing some small dance, I'm having a special gesture to roll the dice. So there is like a whole theater of rolling dice. I'm all into it. This is part of the experience, part of the playing miniature games. When you roll a couple of sixes on these dice are already used to. I'm not rolling them again because then I need a new dice. Like, yes, I'm crazy. I love it. It's a part of the game, part of the enjoyment, all these crazy rituals. And yes, I do it all the time.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
That's fantastic.
Everybody, I think almost everybody has got some silly. Yeah. Wayne Walker says, no, I'm boring, but true. I'm no to all four of those questions. He's not superstitious, no such thing about bad dice. So he's like the only person that really said no, or people said no, but they were like, yeah, but I do this ritual thing. Well, that makes you superstitious now, doesn't it? It was almost every person saying they're going to do
Oh yeah.
something interesting with their dice, even though they're not superstitious.
Leona Santos says, well, the bad dice become decoration. I do have a set of favorite dice. For Pathfinder, it's a set of 10d10 black dice for Vampire the Masquerade. I've used my bad dice when I need a low roll, and
Oh
they've
wow,
given me, of course, high rolls
yeah,
instead.
of course. All right, that was
When I
great.
was in high school, when we played role-playing games, I was game master, and my players knew that they are not allowed to touch my dice. Like this was the rule. If you would, because they were not, but if they touch the dice of me, of game master, they are dead. Like that was the rule. So yes, we are gamers. We are crazy. This is
I
a fact.
it's really true. I've played with so many people that literally you don't touch their dice. You
Yep.
don't touch their dice. They have special dice. You don't. You touch my dice. They yell at you. They're angry. Like
Yeah, the magic is gone,
guys,
right?
guys, it's an inanimate. No, it doesn't. It's so funny. All right, Corey. What is the great question that you came up for next week? Because you had this week. You had something. It was truth time. Now this week you have
It is genie
genie
time.
time.
So you are given the ability to take complete control of any one game publisher.
I'm scared.
What would you demand they immediately do or immediately stop doing?
I am. I am frightened by what we're going to get back on this one. You know, for, for
I
for
have
those
answer.
for those people that really follow publishers, right? A lot of people don't. I mean, they might give them a more generic answer in that case, but I
I think our
wonder.
audience knows publishers and
Yeah,
follows
sure.
publishers, so.
Yeah.
I have answer.
You have an answer. So if you could,
Uh-oh.
if I assume it's not going to be Portal Games that you're taking complete control over. So go ahead. I want to hear this one.
I have a couple of comments on my company as well, but no, this time I'm complaining on other publisher. Dear GMT, in your
Okay.
rule books, when you have a setup section, picture would be awesome. End of my statement.
Yes.
GMT is a company that puts a wall of text in a setup and no single freaking picture. It's I cannot understand how it is happening over these many, many years.
Yeah, it's like
I
50
get
years
it.
of doing that. It's like crazy.
I like this trend. I want all the answers to begin with Dear Publisher.
Corey, do you have any publisher that you would demand something changed if you had that genie ability? I don't know. I
Oh,
don't know that I have one. Yeah, like
I don't really. I mean, I'm pretty happy. The publishers I'm happy with, I'm pretty happy with. I agree, GMT Games. I Mine would be more along the lines of Dear GMT, please publish a game not made in the 1980s.
Please publish a modern game. No, they've actually published some modern games
I know.
fairly
Giving
recently.
them trouble.
Dear Play to Z, make money. Signed, Stephen Bonner.
Because I know everybody at Play to Z has been against making
That's
money.
right. Zev is
So,
completely against. He just wants to make games. He doesn't care about money. No, I'm kidding, of course. Um,
No, but
you know, I'm
seriously, like being a serious, still we are in absolutely golden era of board gaming, and over
sure.
these
oh
20
yeah.
years, we developed so much skill and knowledge about our industry, and our rule books are better. Everything is better, and then once a while you see a rule book that has no pictures of the components or has no pictures in the setup, it's terrible because when you just bought the game, you don't know these pieces, you don't know what's the, I don't know, some golden card, you don't know what's the prince token, we have no clue yet. We need pictures at the very beginning of the rulebook. So I know I'm the guy who did first Martian's rulebook, but once again, I learned a lot.
You
And
learned a lot.
pictures in setup and pictures in the component section are
Oh yeah.
mandatory, and
Yeah.
we need that.
Agreed. Every game should have that.
Yeah. I'm gonna go, because Fantasy Flight Games was always one of my favorite companies. I mean, when I was even before I was even in even in the industry as a publisher, always my favorite companies. And for what it's worth, Asmodee has significantly changed that company. So to me, I would say something like, and again, they are a brand, they are an imprint, a brand of Asmodee. But looking at them as a company, I'd say Fantasy Flight Games make epic games again. Right? That was their thing. They made epic games. Do it again. Make some more of those.
Coffin boxes, right?
Yeah, those coffin boxes. Epic. Now, were they
That
efficient?
was
Yes.
excitement,
They
right?
were not.
Everyone, we were like, "Oh my God, another big box from the FFG!"
Even the
Like,
box was
you were
epic.
already excited,
Yeah,
right?
even the box was stupidly epic, but and they're so inefficient. It's much better to build it as a cube, right? And now we got the Calixes, so everybody wants those cubes. But Fantasy Flight, I'm taking control. Make games epic. That's what you have always done well. All right, guys, what a long episode. Let's get over to. Oh, no, wait. We have to first say that you people out there need to go answer this question on our forums. And Ignacy is going to put this thread out there, right, Ignacy, for episode 374. So go answer the question to us that we are posing to you, and we will probably take your answer next week. In the meantime, the final scoring. Thank you so much for listening by helping us spread this word. You are helping us do this for us. Download the podcast, watch it on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. And if you want to be part of the podcast, as I just mentioned, go to the guild. That you have the playtesting segment question. You can ask us questions for strategy and tactics. Come on, do that for us. And talk to us directly on social media. Pick the one of your choice. And they're all the handles the same on everything. It's Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and YouTube. It's at Board Games Insider, Portal Games US, at Podfather Gaming, Dice Tower Dish, Play to Z Games, Above Board TV. Talk directly to us on all of those places. Pick the one you like the best. And a special call out to those YouTube channel names because that's what we do most of our work on, and that's Portal Game Studio, The Podfather of Gaming, and Above Board TV. Come talk to us in person on an upcoming convention here at Origins. By the time you hear this, of course, Origins will be over. BGG at Sea, if you'll be there, let's hang out, game, get a drink, lunch, all that kind of great stuff. And then after that, we'll see everybody at Gen Con. Corey and I will be there. Ignacy is too scared to fly over. Well, maybe we'll get him in 2026. Who knows? Board Games Insider, professionally edited by Jake Thompson. Thank you, Jake, for becoming part of this team. And that great voice you hear doing the intro, the outro, the in-between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do your voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Gentlemen, another great episode. Thank you for all being here and getting up early, staying late at work, and all that kind of stuff. Anything else you want to tell people about? With
Age
that,
of Galaxy, pre-orders, portalgamesua.com. I have my sample. It looks amazing. So this is what's happening for us. Reminder, check it out.
Age of Galaxy. You would have seen that beautiful cover just now if you were
Yeah,
watching.
I definitely want one, and I don't want any impending pressure of me owning Gen Con or anything to influence you, but
Since he's not going to Gen Con.
Well, I saw Eric Lang is a guest of honor.
They made
yeah,
him a guest of
Maybe
honor.
next year, like just throwing ideas, just brainstorming. Like,
Maybe. Never mind. I can make all kinds of jokes about Corey and Gen Con, but I won't because I don't want to put any pressure on him to like,
thank you.
help out certain companies or anything like that. So, all right, everybody. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
bye bye. Thank you.
See you, everyone.